The Louisville Cardinals have been the most consistent school for a certain top 50 prospect.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is year number 5 of covering U of L, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Apparently, the Louisville Cardinals have been the most consistent school for top 50 2026 basketball prospect Anthony Felesi. We'll discuss what his fall timeline looks like, what he could potentially bring to the Cardinals program, and much more. Louisville cornerback Tayon Holloway has been reinstated by the program and will play for the Cardinals this upcoming season. Reaction to that and more here shortly. And then Josiah Hope, once committed, then decommitted, and now flipped back to the Louisville Cardinals in the 2026 football recruiting class. Really notable news in the class. Huge talent that the Cardinals bring back into the fold coming up at the conclusion of the show. But first, today's episode of the show brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. We'll start with some basketball recruiting talk on the show today. Anthony Felesi, top 50 prospect in the 2026 basketball recruiting class, gave some answers to some questions from Jody Demling over at Louisville's 24/7 Sports Cardinal Authority site. There was an article this past weekend on Saturday titled "Louisville at the top of the list for 4-star wing Anthony Felesi." One of the first quotes says that the 6'5" Felesi remains a top target for the Cardinals and said last week at the Nike Peach Jam that the Cardinals staff have been, quote unquote, the most consistent school in his recruitment. He just goes on to say that Pat Kelsey offered him during a practice. He loves Pat Kelsey. He's an amazing guy with a ton of energy. He goes on to say, I quote, I feed off of energy, and he's amazing with his. Coach Ronnie Hamilton texts me every day. They have all been great. Louisville is at the top of the list so far. Goes on to say, I like the way they play for sure. They play fast and like to get out in transition. Pat Kelsey runs a great offense, but they also like to play defense. Felesi is a highly sought-after prospect, ranked as the 47th best player, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, top 20 small forward, and one of the top 2 players in the state of Utah. Looking at this article from Jody Demling, it looks like there hasn't been any OVs scheduled just yet, but Felesi admits that he will visit Louisville in either late August or early September. Will probably take more than 5 visits. A couple schools he mentions: UCLA, USC, Oregon, Creighton, and Kentucky. So in Peach Jam play, 13.6 points a game, 4.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 2.1 steals, and 1.5 blocks per game. So very versatile prospect Felesi is. And I think the comments are exciting to hear about if you are a Louisville fan, hearing that the Cardinals have been the most consistent. Now, those official visits, or the teams that he's looking to make official visits to, I mean, a lot of those are West Coast, but Louisville and Kentucky both involved. Worth noting that the Cardinals were involved with a former teammate at Utah Prep, J.J. Mandequit. He ended up ultimately going to Washington, but the Cardinals were seriously engaged with his recruitment. Also has ties with A.J. Devanza, playing for Utah Prep. So on the floor, Felesi does a couple things extremely well. For starters, he's extremely crafty. at finishing around the basket. 6'5", 180 pounds. I wouldn't say not one of the quickest guys on the floor. He's extremely athletic, but is he one of those jump out of the gym type prospects? I'm not sure. He has the necessary athleticism, but being able to get the ball out in transition, to be able to take guys off the dribble, get to the basket, penetrate into the lane, and contort his body midair to either finish through contact or to be able to prevent that contact and just maneuvering other defenders. Like, that's the part of his game that I'm most excited about, because in years past, like, it has been a luxury for the Cardinals to have a guy that can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Like, Louisville's MO has been shooting the three-point shot, getting to the free throw line. But in terms of purely penetrating to the basket and finishing through contact, like, just not much. Over the past, 10 years or so? Like, you have a couple players here and there, but not truly all that consistent. So, solid at 1v1 opportunities, does a good job of taking his guy off the dribble and being able to finish through contact, but also kind of fits this system well because of the attention to detail in transition, does a really good job of getting down the floor and using that scoring repertoire to get to the rim and finish through contact. Like, there's so many clips out there where he absorbs the initial contact from the defender, contorts his body, changes the angle in which he releases the shot, and I mean, more often than not, it seems like it goes in. In terms of shooting, I didn't really see much of a sample size of perimeter shooting. The shot doesn't look bad. There were clips of him making the three-point shots, but I didn't really see too much from a sample size perspective, which doesn't change much. It just, again, I didn't really see much there. Defending, he projects as a plus level defender with the potential to be a lockdown point of attack #1 overall defender on a given team, of course. Two steals per game, almost a couple blocks per game. Like, the attention to detail on the defensive end, both as a point of attack defender, but also defending in transition. Like, I really, really believe that that's kind of what the doctor has ordered for Pat Kelsey's system. That is, yes, it's very high octane offense, but you can tell that there still is a focus on serviceable defending, versatile defending. And if you talk about Anthony Felesi as a prospect, I think versatile is the term that comes to mind. So I think with the Cardinals going after a top 50 prospect, it's unknown as to whether or not he's going to be a one and done. I think he's probably more of a 2-year prospect, but that's sort of what you're kind of looking for. Like, yeah, Louisville's going after their fair share of one and done guys, your elite top 20 prospects, but I also would be a huge fan of taking a top 50, top 70 player that it's like, hey, look, he might not be a guy that year one, he's a huge contributor. And if he is, he might not be a one and done, but in the name of continuity for our program, we believe he has the skill set to be able to come in, develop, and be a multiple-year contributor. And I think that that's kind of what you're looking for in the name of continuity in an era of college sports where there just is a huge lack thereof of continuity. So I like what Felesi brings to the table. I like the skill set. I think it's something that fits well with Pat Kelsey's system. It seems pretty clear as to why Louisville has been extremely consistent, but that consistency has to be able to produce something in the long run. Like, can Louisville really position themselves to get his commitment? If you're going to go out and prioritize Tyron Stokes and you're going to prioritize some top guards and maybe some top big men, or maybe a top big man with Arifon Dean, maybe you go out and get not so much of a project, I want to say, but a multiple-year player with Felesi. That would be pretty solid. But when we come back, we're going to discuss a situation that has been a little bit of a touchy discussion because of the nature of the discussion, but Louisville cornerback Tayon Holloway has been reinstated with the program. We're going to react to that, discuss what this means for the Cardinals on the field, and more when we come back on this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, today's episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. If you're like me and you ever wish managing your money felt easier, well, with Monarch Money, it can, whether you're growing your savings or planning a large purchase. Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances, because it's meant to be more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. For me, the thing that I loved the most about downloading the app was having everything all in one place, to where it makes it easier to manage money on a day-to-day basis. And also, you see all those random subscriptions that you kind of forgot that you had committed to, but hey, they add up. Monarch takes control of those as well. So take control overall of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. As always, want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Global, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Over the weekend, Tayon Holloway posted some images on his social media of him in the new Louisville jerseys, or a certain Louisville jersey, with a new number. And it kind of sparked some rumors out there as to, hey, is he back with the team? Well, the news came shortly after that Tayon Holloway got reinstated back with the Louisville football team. There was a statement put out, University of Louisville student athlete Tayon Holloway has been reinstated to the football program after the conclusion of his legal matter. Okay, so a lot to kind of discuss here. What I really want to get across is that I'm going to be as fair as possible. The truth is that I don't know what happened. And judging based upon the sheer amount of rumors that had conflicting stories out there, it doesn't seem like many people knew what happened. So let's take a look at the timeline. After that loss to Stanford in mid-November last season, Tayon Holloway was charged with first-degree strangulation and fourth-degree assault with minor injury, like immediately after that game, like November 17th, I think, November 17th, November 18th, whichever day he got charged with these specific charges. It was in result to a call that police got in result to a dispute. Now, what happened in that dispute has been often rumored. We don't know. So I want to be fair to both parties involved. So for that reason, I'm not going to speculate. Of course, domestic disputes are indeed very, very serious, and they should be taken as such. But I'm going to be fair to both parties because I don't know what happened. And he was indefinitely suspended from the team. It looks like that first-degree strangulation charge, which is a felony charge, got docked down to second-degree strangulation. The fourth-degree assault with minor injury is a misdemeanor. And of course, if I'm getting any of these things incorrect, please forgive me for saying that. In March, late March, that strangulation charge was dismissed. The fourth-degree assault charge was turned into second-degree disorderly conduct. It was a diverted sentence, apparently according to a plea deal, where he pled guilty to second-degree disorderly conduct and would avoid jail time if he abided by all of the, what the court was requiring by June 4th. And my stance on the matter is that I'm going to really put this with Jeff Brom. Like Jeff Brom, whatever he decided, I was going to, ride with. It's like, okay, Jeff Brom and company run a no-nonsense level program. Like, they hold players accountable. They make sure that, any type of wrongdoing is handled accordingly. So he has historically run a very no-nonsense level program. If he and the rest of his staff and the rest of the program decide that after everything that has been presented, with knowing the situation, with everything involved, if he believes that bringing Tayon Holloway back with the program is the right decision, then I'm going to side with that decision. That's kind of where I'm leaving it up to him to make that call, because you're hoping that Brom is making the right decision. Like, this is a second chance for both parties, and I'm hoping that Tayon Holloway takes advantage of this opportunity, and I hope that he makes the most of this on the field. Now, on the field for the Cardinals, now, of course, this is where, like, I am making sure to keep this as on the field as possible, because I don't know what happened. So on the field, Tayon Holloway had some really high highs and he had some really low lows. The really low was in that Stanford game where he had the unsportsmanlike penalty conduct at the end of the game that put Stanford right there in that field goal range and didn't allow it to go to overtime. Like, that was a unacceptable mistake. You watch the play and it's completely unacceptable what happened. The only hope is that he's learned from that. In his first season in Louisville, he had a total of 16 tackles, 5 passes deflected, 1 sack, but he had some really memorable plays. Like, he might have won the game for the Cardinals against Georgia Tech in the 3rd game of the season. He had the blocked field goal, the scoop and score to return it for a touchdown in the 4th quarter that put Louisville in a really good spot in that Georgia Tech game. Also, in late October, that Boston College game, that huge comeback that Louisville was able to have. At the end, when Boston College was threatening, Thomas Castellanos throwing the ball to the end zone, Tayon Holloway made at least one huge play that aided the Cardinals to get that victory against the Eagles, which, both of those games proved to be pretty critical for the Cardinals defense. So this season, Louisville has a bunch of question marks. You are having to replace a ton of production at cornerback. Holloway coming back helps a little bit with that. He had 3 starts in 10 games appeared in. But I think that the hope is that at the very least, you're hoping that he's in game shape, or, in shape to be able to compete in camp. And I think that the floor here is that he's going to be a guy that played like last year, that played when his number was called, involved in the 2 deep but didn't start. I think that that's the floor. That's what you're looking for with Tayon Holloway. Is like, can you give us valuable depth? Can you make big plays when your number is called? And can you, raise the tide in this cornerback's room? Now, I think that the ceiling is vastly different. I think that the ceiling is potential CB1 for this team. Like, Tayon Holloway spent 2 seasons at North Carolina, redshirted in 2022, had a sort of a breakout season as a redshirt freshman in 23. Like, he's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, and you're hoping that he can evolve and develop into a starting cornerback, because Holloway, at 6'1", 190 pounds, has solid size for the position. That verticality that he plays with, being able to high point the football, the pass is deflected. Like, the potential is there if he's able to unlock it to be a starting level cornerback in the ACC. And I think that this season, like, the Cardinals need all the help that they can get in the secondary. So I just hope that this works out for both parties. Like, I'm hoping that he's able to come in and give Louisville some much needed returning experience in the cornerbacks room. And I'm hoping he can take the next step, because if he can, it can mean a world of a difference for this defensive backfield, for the secondary, for a defense that, you have so many question marks. Yes, you have guys coming in, but they are via the FCS level, from the non-Power 4 level, from the high school ranks. Like, who is going to rise up to the occasion? And I think that Tayon Holloway, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he is a potential starter for week 1, and if he's not, a potential starter for that ACC opener against Pittsburgh in late September. So, pretty significant news for the Cards from a roster perspective in late July. And speaking of notable news, the Cardinals got a second commitment from an in-state prospect that I really, really like being in this specific class. We're going to talk about Josiah Hope's pretty interesting recruiting timeline when we come back on this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. But first, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Look, we've all been there. You're logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in to play. It makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever because you can save up to 60% off with the last-minute deals. And that's exactly what I did just earlier this month when I went to Lexington, kind of spur in the moment, and got to see Creed and Daughtry in concert. And it was a incredible concert. I'm glad that I decided to go, and it wouldn't have been possible without Game Time. So be like me. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are into the final week of July. There will be 2 episodes to conclude July. There will be an episode today and then one on Wednesday with weekly mailbag questions. And then we will be back to a full in-season month starting in August. There will be an episode Monday going through to 19 total episodes in the entire month of August. The 4th season of Locked On Louisville kicks off beginning on Friday. So, awesome news to hear there, but we aren't done with this month of July yet. The Cardinals got another commitment from the same prospect. Well, Josiah Hope, one of the top players in the state of Kentucky in the 2026 class, ranked as a top 400 prospect, 4-star player in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, 389th best player, 45th best defensive lineman, 3rd best player in the state of Kentucky. He committed to Louisville, on June 2nd. He decommitted from Louisville on June 10th. He committed to Purdue on June 22nd. And on July 23rd, a month after, he flipped his commitment to the Cardinals program. So a lot of moving parts in this commitment. Well, what is the main reason as to why he changed his mind? Like, why with all of a sudden change of heart? 2 words, one name. Big dog, Vince Marrow. Vince Marrow, if you remember, at Kentucky, had a huge relationship with the folks over at North Hardin High School. Kentucky, I'm trying to think of the players that Kentucky got. Oxendine, Octavius Oxendine, I think is his name, that really talented defensive lineman that played a ton for Kentucky. Just one of the players that Kentucky was able to bring in. Mark Stoops, Vince Marrow recruited that school really well. So with those connects, looks like was able to work some magic and be a huge deciding factor for Josiah Hope to flip back to Louisville. The 6'3", 300-pound defensive lineman had a huge junior season with 61 total tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles for a North Hardin team that made it to, I think, the second round of the 6A playoff. 6A is the best classification for Kentucky high school football. Now, of course, the question remains, how good of a prospect is he, considering that state of Kentucky 4-star prospects, it's kind of hit or miss in which ones are legit and which ones aren't. But he plays sort of in that, Louisville surrounding area, E-Town, North Hardin, 6A. So you would imagine that is a decent level of competition. But, I mean, just watching his film, appeared as both a 3-tech and a 5-tech. I think his future is going to be on the interior, whether it's that 3-tech or whether it is as a nose tackle. And for those that are kind of questioning, what's the difference between, all these different positions? Well, kind of for lack of better terms, in that defense that Louisville deploys, nose tackle is lining up right on the center. 3-tech usually means that you're lining up on the outside shoulder of the offensive guard. And then 5-tech is usually lining up on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle. Now, Josiah Hope probably played all three of those spots on the defensive line. Well, 6'3", 300 pounds. I think that moving forward, he's going to definitely play on the interior. And I like that there is a focus. You talk about who the Cardinals have brought in since Vince Marrow has been here. Number one player in Kentucky, 4-star offensive tackle Jarvis Strickland. Top 3 player in Kentucky, 4-star defensive lineman Josiah Hope. This is the type of prospect. This is the caliber of prospect that I'm really excited for Louisville to start being involved with, because I think if you're looking to take this overall recruiting effort to the next level, you're thinking, okay, how can you get from where you are to where you want to be? How do you transform your recruiting? I think it starts in the trenches. I think Louisville needs to continue to get a better caliber recruit at both the offensive and defensive sides of the trenches. Well, you just got Jarvis Strickland and Josiah Hope, and I think that that's a great start to the recruiting efforts, because say what you want about Kentucky over the past couple of years, but one of the reasons why they were even able to have those good seasons is because, man, they controlled the line of scrimmage. And I think Vince Marrow's like, hey, guys, this is – and I'm not saying that Jeff Brom and company haven't thought of this, of course, but I think Vince Marrow's kind of hammering home the point of hey, let's really, really ramp up our our offensive and defensive priorities in the trenches. Let's ramp up the trenches and bring in some difference makers and some absolute dudes. And I think that Josiah Hope is one of those guys, that can be a complete difference maker. But year one, maybe not, because in the trenches, puberty and maturity are things that do wonders for players that, you got to get your body right. And just overall, when you're able to spend a year or two in the strength and conditioning program and you get ready to perform, Josiah Hope could be a multiple-year starter for the Cardinals on the interior of that defensive line. So that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show. When we come back on Wednesday, it will be all about the weekly mailbag. Get those questions in the YouTube comments below. We'll see you right back here on Wednesday. Have a great week. Go Cards.